Here you go. That is that. First got to take the wrapper off. So now we have that. Okay. So then what I do is I make a little insertion there. Oops. Okay, so you might be able to see a little bit like that, yeah? And what I'll do is I'll carry on making another insertion. I hope I get this right because I think I might fuck this up. I don't know if you can see that, but it's now flatter than it was before. I think I need to get this a little bit flatter. So it was now a sausage and now it's basically it's that. Completely flat. Yeah, and all I've got to do, make another incision there. The idea of making these incisions is just to get a little fold. So the idea is if I can put some sage and onion stuff in there, and then the idea is you roll it like that, and then you have string wrapped around it. And I'm now going to press the pause button. Bear with me a second. First, I've got to wash my hands because I've got to touch the screen after touching pause. I'm going to push pause. Now, are we counting? We are counting. Now that is my, well, it says sage and onion. It's really garlic and herb. And basically, I've used roughly half a bag that comes in, and that makes that with some boiling water. You don't want it too wet, and if it's a bit too dry, you probably want to get more liquid in it. But it's better it be too dry than too wet. Because if it's too wet, you've got to pour more of this stuff in. Yeah. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spread it right down the centre. But it mustn't be too thick, so it's impossible to actually fold. And I might call it rolling, but it's really folding. I'm not sure whether I'll ask Mum to do this or whether I'll have a crack at doing it. If she does, it'll be quicker. But she's got a habit of touching the string after she's touched the pork, which means that anything you touch, every time you touch the string after that, it's technically contaminated with pork juice. This has taken quite a long time, but bear with me. I don't know if you can see that. It's basically, and the idea is you would turn it over like that and you basically string it together. So I'm now going to wash my hands and I'm going to cut off a few pieces of string. Obviously it helps to have all this preparation prepared beforehand, and as you can see, I don't know where the string is. Oh, where have you put the bloody string? This is the problem about living with someone with dementia. She puts things down, she doesn't know where she's put it, and then she says somebody's nicked the bloody string, or somebody's nicked this, or somebody's nicked that. I bet she's put it somewhere and she's not remembering where it is. Gotcha. So here we have string. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a few doodahs. I think about 5 or 6 would be for this. The idea is to make sure that the stuffing remains intact. And I'm talking to you like you're a fucking idiot and you keep picking up on this. But I don't want the string to... Sorry, I'm doing this off camera. So I'm cutting, I'm not even sure if I've got these at the right length, I probably haven't. So I'm going to cut that in half. You see what I'm doing now, just tying it up. I'd like to point out that I may have done this before and I was probably shit the last time, which is why I always get Mummy Dearest to do it. Well done, Paul, you haven't made the string long enough. What a fucking bell end. Now what I am going to do is when I cook it, and I'll probably put too much stuffing in this, but as long as it ties up, I don't really care. What I'll do is I'm going to cook this with the stuffing up, the reason being that if I don't, it's going to seep everywhere. And at least like if it starts to seep out, it'll only go to the top and it'll probably harden on the top. I'm not overly bothered by that. My mum is much quicker at doing this because she's been doing it for years. I've got a tendency of buying pork that's already tied up, so I don't have to do any of that shit. Oh, I've got 2 more bits of string. I've got enough for this or what? I am slowly getting there, bear with me. You probably won't even watch all this, you probably even got to this bit. I should point at this juncture that I have actually got the oven on. Now if Jamie Oliver was doing this, you'd have spat at everything and you'd have had the misfortune of eating it. Must be why all the bloody restaurants closed down. Right, now I've got that about as good as I'm going to get it. The only thing I haven't got is the stuffing is coming out the ends. There's not a lot I can do about that. It's not coming out the other end though. You can see that it's now completely in. I shouldn't really have all the stuffing on the top, but what can I do? Right, I've now got to wash my hands again because I've now got to find an appropriate tin to put it in, which if you was a professional you would have done that by now, but no. I do things in a hurry and then worry about the consequences later on. Now I think you're supposed to put it straight in a pan, but I'm going to put it straight in a pan and a griddle, and I'm going to put some boiling water on the bottom of that. The reason I'm doing that is if you don't, you'll get smoke coming out of the actual pan. So the idea is when the oil comes out of the loin, if it touches the water, that's absolutely fine, it's going to go straight into it, but you don't want that pan to be completely empty. And there's no point putting oil on it because you're not going to put the pork directly on it, you're going to put it on the griddle. He talks like he knows what he's talking about. So now it is like that. I can't really tip it because it'll fall over. Right, hang on. There's so much bloody blood that's come off this, it's unreal. we are nearly there. So that's going to be poured into the pan, just to stop any smoking from the pork. And I've just realised I've got to wrap this in some foil for the first. So that goes on the top just to make sure it doesn't sort of like dry out and crisp up too quickly. Okay, that goes on the top, and then after a period of time, I do not know when because I haven't checked, I'm about to check now. Let's see what it says on the wrapping. Let's see if I can read it. Gas mark 7, which is 220 degrees C or fan 200. You getting that? Remove all packaging, cover with foil, done that. Cook for 30 minutes, remove foil, and cook for 30 to 55 minutes per kilogram. And this weighs what? That's under a kilo. So that's going to take, according to this, because it's under a kilogram in weight, it's going to take about less than an hour and a half. So that is it. Goodbye.